Hey, how's everybody doing today? Bringing you some more ramblings of a short, fat, bald guy. Today we're going to talk about mental health in the U.S. and the problems that we are having with mental health in the U.S. Um, obviously, mental health care has deteriorated over the last year due to COVID. People have had more and more issues between addiction and drinking too much, the isolation, loneliness, things like that. That in itself is a big problem. But what I'm about to say probably is not going to be real popular with some people. And on for this, I'll take the lumps that I get. Um, I've had some experience dealing with people that are mentally ill. To protect privacy, none of the names I use will be real. But I'm going to give you an example of a guy we'll call Dave. Um, Dave was bipolar. Dave hears when he's manic, music is his thing. I mean, he just wants to listen to music and he's out of control and he cries. And then whenever he's depressed, he wants to kill himself and he cries and he does bad things. Dave overall was genuinely a nice guy when he's on his meds. The problem that we run into with Dave and with so many others is Dave doesn't like the way the meds make him feel. So he takes the meds for a while, then he gets off the meds, which sends him into a tailspin. Whether it's an episode of manic or an episode of depression, you don't know, but he's all over the place and he's uncontrollable. Um, Dave isn't responsible enough to care for his own medication, which unfortunately is something that you see very frequently in people that suffer mental illness. And as unpopular as it is, I think that maybe if you have people that are repeat offenders, for lack of a better description, because they're brought to the hospital, they're violent, or they're depressive, they're depressed, they're trying to kill themselves, they're homicidal, they're threatening to kill someone else. I think that if you have repeat offenders, I think that we need, as a country, to do better caring for those people. And caring for them may include appointing a guardian to them that ensures that they take their medication and take it as required to keep them from going literally crazy in their minds. Um, you know, we're fortunate here in the little town that I live in. Dave had an incident one time where he was in the parking lot of a facility, had threatened to leave and kill himself. It was for mental health, the building was, and he walked out, got into his truck. They contacted law enforcement, and Dave was in his truck, ramped up, so manic he was out of control, had the thing in drive, had his foot on the brake, had the other foot on the gas, and was spinning tires in the parking lot, throwing blue smoke everywhere. Police had him surrounded, and they talked him down. Between the local law enforcement, they talked him down. They got him to put his car in park, or his truck in park. They got him out. Then he was transported to the facility that I used to work at, where we kept him for, I want to say, 45 hours, maybe 48 hours, before a place was found that would take him. That's another issue. They closed all these facilities for people with mental illness, and they put the people out on the streets. I'm not saying that people need to be locked up. If they're a violent offender, yes, then absolutely. They need to be locked up until they are better. And I understand, and I hope you guys realize a person with mental illness typically always has mental illness. I mean, they have to take their meds to control those urges and impulses that normal people can control without medication. They can't do that. But we put these folks in society, and like I said, Dave's an example. When he's on his medication, you couldn't find a nicer guy. I mean, he was just absolutely very friendly, very nice, jovial, was fine. It's when he got off his meds that there was such a problem. That is one isolated case, but I'll tell you, it's not isolated. 90% of the people that we dealt with back in the day when I worked with mental illness were repeat offenders. And 90% of them quit taking their meds. They didn't like the way the meds made them feel. They forgot. They just didn't want to do it. There's some side effects of some of the medication that people don't like. And again, it comes back to, I think if you really want to help these folks, and you don't want to put them in homes, and I understand that you want them to be a part of society, and I think anybody with a mental illness can be a part of society, then what is the problem with appointing a guardian that ensures that they get what they need as far as their medication? What's the problem with appointing a guardian that makes sure they get to their appointments that they need to go to on a regular basis to, for their counseling, for their psychiatrist, their psychologist, their counselor, whatever it is? We hear all the crap about violence in our community. And, we're going to take guns away. And, I had one friend made a comment about, well, what are we going to do about knife violence and car violence? And it all comes down to mental health. I am not opposed to a deep background check for somebody purchasing a gun. If you've got mental health issues, should you be able to purchase a gun? In my opinion, no, you should not. Now, if we're talking, you have a depressive state, you're going through a divorce or whatever, and you go to a doctor or a psychiatrist or a psychologist and you get your counseling, and they bring you up out of that. Because we've all been there. We've had things in our lives that we're just like, oh man, I don't know how I'm going to make it through this. That's a different story. But I'm talking the people that are clinically diagnosed with bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, oppositional defiant disorder, personality disorders of many, many types that are out there. I don't think that it's wise that those people have the ability to purchase a gun. Now, if you've never been in the system and you go buy a gun and you're crazy, but you've done a pretty good job of keeping yourself under control, that's a different story. I don't know what the answer is to that. This really isn't about gun control. It's about mental health and where we're at as a country. There shouldn't be a stigma attached because a person has a mental illness. There is. People are not out there going, wearing their bipolar disorder as a badge of honor because they don't want people looking at them going, oh man, bipolar disorder, we gotta stay away from them, or schizophrenia or things like that. Again, most of the people that have mental illness, when they're medicated, you would have no idea that there is anything going on with them, which is the way it should be. And again, I get back to, but they don't take their meds. Now, we also seem to be, as a society, very quick to say, well, it's a mental illness. Because a teenager is oppositional to an adult, a parent, doesn't necessarily mean they're mentally ill. They're teenagers. I was defiant as a teenager to my parents at times, not obviously 100% of the time. Um, as I think most of you will agree at some point or another, you were defiant to your parents. It is what it is. That doesn't mean you're mentally ill. And I don't think that we need to categorize somebody that gets in trouble with their parents as being mentally ill. They're defiant, and that happens as a teenager. The hormones are an issue. We all know that. Um, it's just it's a vicious circle with these folks that have mental illness. And I think as a country, we are doing a disservice to those with mental illness. Um, you know, it's it's not fair to them that we stigmatize them. I guess that would be the correct word. Stigmatize a person that has a mental illness. Um, of course, like I said, most people that I know that have a mental illness, you wouldn't typically know. And the only reason I know is because of what I used to do for a living. Um, it's something that we as a country need to work on. Am I saying they all need locked up? No, I'm not. You know, I am saying that by closing so many of the facilities that were out there and basically allowing these people out, but with no controls in place, we set them up for failure. The other problem we have with that, with all the facilities closed, whenever these people are in crisis, we have nowhere to send them. So they sit in hospital ERs for hours and hours and days sometimes, which is a disservice to them, and it's a disservice to the ER staff. You know, I can tell you, dealing with a person that is bipolar and in the throes of a manic episode, that person's like three people taking care of that one person 24/7. You can't, I mean, you can't have enough people in that room because, they're going to try to hurt themselves, or they're going to try to hurt others, or I'm not going to stay, I'm leaving, and they're not safe to leave. So we need to work on that. And I know that, we don't want to stigmatize these people, and I agree, but we still need to make sure that they have a fair shake to survive in this country with a mental illness. And if appointing a guardian to them to make sure that they get their medications is the way to do that, then why not give it a try? Again, I don't know the answer. That's a suggestion. It's like I said, this is a tough situation. Give you another example of, we'll say her name is Jessica. Jessica had never been in trouble or been in a problem before. Never had a problem. For whatever reason, Jessica took it upon herself to start killing animals. There's a big flag right there. Jessica's in the midst of puberty. Jessica's got terrible home life. Jessica has got a lot of issues going on. Jessica may have some addiction issues. Jessica may have some ADD issues going on. There's a whole list of things. Jessica's living with grandma because mom couldn't handle her. If mom can't handle her, what's the likelihood that grandma can handle her? It's pretty slim. Jessica, needed to be put someplace that she could be medicated and get her issues under control. Jessica being released from that place to go back home to grandma probably isn't a good idea, but that's what we have to do at this point. Grandma couldn't deal with her, and a short amount of time after Jessica was released, Jessica was back to the local ER because Jessica went crazy, and it just happens. So it's a Terrible situation. I don't know the answers, but there you have it. Ramblings of a short, fat, bald guy. Thanks a lot. You guys have a good day.